Hello and welcome to all of you. You're watching Tech24, France 24's tech show. As we celebrate the Concorde's 50th anniversary, we take you back on what an incredible technological breakthrough this supersonic plane was. We also tell you more about companies that are pursuing the dream of developing such rapid transportation. And we'll also speak to Sabrina Ouazzini, a postdoctoral fellow at the L'Oréal UNESCO International Rising Talent Program. She's the only woman in France to work on so-called computability. We'll ask her why she thinks women are still struggling to work in certain tech sectors. March 2019 marks the 50th anniversary of the first flight of Concorde, the iconic passenger aircraft that flew at twice the speed of sound. The plan caught the imagination of the public with its sleek, futuristic design and several cutting-edge innovations. Laurent Bersecher takes us back on the Concorde's journey.
In 1962, France and the UK made what seemed an impossible bet, building the world's first supersonic commercial jet. In March 1969, the Concorde took off for the first time, completing a 27-minute test flight. It then took 7 more years for the plane to enter commercial service in January 1976. The Concorde awed the world and graced the skies with its sleek lines and bird-like shape, but also with its incredible speed. Flying at over 2,000 kilometers an hour, it was more than twice as fast as other commercial planes. Yet this engineering marvel also had its share of issues, including a sound pollution problem caused by the sonic boom and a massive environmental footprint. In total, 14 Concorde airplanes entered commercial service before tragedy struck. In July 2000, an Air France Concorde jet carrying 100 passengers crashed a minute after takeoff, killing everyone on board. The investigation later found repeated oversights in the company's fleet maintenance practices.
They didn't act, even when problems kept piling up. There were more than 70 incidents in 20 years. Concorde fuel tanks that were damaged by tyre fragments were leaking. Can you imagine what that means, a plane's fuel tank leaking? But they still let it happen.
The Concorde tried to recover, but the company had lost the public's trust and soon reached the end of the line. The last commercial Concorde landed in New York in October 2003, drawing the curtain on the golden years of supersonic travel.
It's now time to welcome on set our in-house expert, Dan and Jay Kattolkar. Hello and welcome, Dan. It's a pretty incredible story, the story of the Concorde. What made it stand out technologically?
Well, there are multiple cutting-edge technologies on the Concorde. To start with, as you must have seen, its sleek aerodynamic design was one of its most striking features. And the reason why it had to have this design was to achieve high aerodynamic efficiency in order to enable it to breach the sound barrier. Now, for that, they had the Concorde had 2 delta wings. It had a highly streamlined fuselage and the nose. And in fact, that nose could be drooped downwards in order to improve the visibility during landing. The other features included very powerful 4 turbojet engines made by Rolls-Royce and Snecma, and those had military-style afterburners, which would add a 20% additional thrust to the engines when the plane wanted to break the sound barrier. It also had a highly reflective paint in order to radiate the heat better when it reached when it was in supersonic mode, because it would generate a lot of heat. Then it was the first commercial plane that had computer control systems, especially when it came to efficient engine operations and even to make slight adjustment to the wings in order to reduce the drag and achieve maximum aerodynamic efficiency. So these were some of the great features that Concorde boasted.
Now, very few people know this, but there was actually another commercial supersonic plane at the time, and it was built by the then Soviet Union, but it wasn't such a success, was it?
Well, it was called the Tu-144. In fact, before Concorde's first flight in March 1969, it was, I think, 3 months before, it was in December 1968 that the Tu-144, the Tupolev Tu-144, took its first flight. It became supersonic in June 1969, again few months before Concorde. The Concorde became supersonic in October 1969. But a disaster struck this entire project in 1973 at the Paris Air Show when one of the Tu-144 crashed, and later, because of multiple problems, it was not successful, and in fact, it could operate only 55 passenger flights between 1977 and 1978.
Now, we saw in the report the Concorde was grounded in 2003, but we could actually soon travel again at the speed of sound in a very near future, thanks to several startups.
That's right. These companies are trying to lower one of the biggest problems that Concorde had, that was the sonic boom, this thunderous sound that Concorde created because of the creation of shockwaves. Now, these companies, Boom, Supersonic, Ariane Aerospace, Spike, and of course another collaboration between Lockheed Martin and NASA, they are trying to develop these planes that will again carry forward the legacy of Concorde. They will reduce the travel time by half, and they will be able to do so by breaking the sound barrier.
Dan and Jake Hadalkar, thank you for that. Now we're celebrating another event here on Tech24, and that is International Women's Day, a time for us to take a look at the place of women in the tech sector. According to recent figures, worldwide, only 29% of scientists are women, and only an average 3% of them are awarded Nobel Prizes. But of course, every day women around the globe are changing things, and one of them is Sabrina Ouazzini, who actually now joins us. Thank you for being here. You're a postdoctoral fellow for L'Oréal UNESCO International Rising Talent Program, but you're also the only woman in France to work on so-called computability. In just a few words, in a simple manner, can you explain to our viewers what is computability?
Okay, hello. So computability is a branch in the field of math and computer science that deals with how hard and how possible is a problem to compute, to implement on a computer. So there exist problems that cannot be implemented on classical computers, like any actual computer. And so we try to understand why and how they cannot be computed, and what could occur if we could add some power to the machine, and how hard the problem still will be computable or not.
Now, Sabrina, I'm sure Alan Turing, who's often hailed as the father of computing, must have been an inspiration to you. But could you walk us through the type of task that the computers of the future will be able to do?
There are several kinds of paradigms for computers in the future. On one hand, there are classical paradigms like the current one, and for example, quantum computations that are still in the same kind of computability problems. We can still solve the same problem, but with more power or faster. But there is also another kind of way of thinking, the future computer, the computer of tomorrow. And this way is, for example, adding to the classical way of thinking the possibility of dealing with notions like, for example, limits. And that is a new way of thinking computer science. So, for example, if you start a computation, you can see that, okay, it seems that the result of your computation will be this number of this kind of answer, but you will need an infinite amount of steps of computations to read that. So you can just say, okay, I know that it deals with it tends with that, so we can now use this limit and carry on computing, and use other limit steps of computations and carry on computing. So this is a way of thinking computer science in a different way, using limits and infinite amount of time.
Now, I said it earlier, you're the only woman working in this specific field of study in France. Why are there still so few women in certain tech fields, and how can we change things?
I think that there are so few women because of, high school or primary school. When you are quite young and you are a girl, sometimes you can just say to yourself, I will not be able to be a scientist. I will not be able to do that or that, just because you have a lack of role models, because most of the time people that are scientists are men or so. So I think it's important to introduce scientists to young girls, and especially women scientists, to show them that it can be like that in 10 years or in 15 years or in 20 years, that they can do that if they want to do that. So that they have to do what they really want to do.
Sabrina Ouazzini, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
It's time for Test 24. If you want to make your own beauty products from scratch and at home to make sure that only natural ingredients are selected, Dan here has just what you need. We can do this in just minutes and in a very eco-friendly manner.
That's right. You can choose the ingredients you want in your shampoos, in your moisturizers, in your lotions, and this can be done by using the mixer made by the company Beauty Mix. It's a French company based in a city called Chartres. The idea is that you can create hygienic, less expensive, and at the same time quality products using the mixer, an app that guides you through the entire process. First, what you have to do is you have to get a diagnosis of your skin by answering a few questions on the app, and it will tell you, or it will suggest you the kind of ingredients you need for, say, a moisturizer. So here I have a bottle of moisturizer made using this system. So this consists of, it's for dry skin, and it consists of almond oil. It also has rose water in it. And all you have to do is mix it, or rather first weigh the components on this weighing scale, each ingredient, and you mix it, and then you just start the mixer, and you'll have a product somewhat similar to this.
And so how much does it cost?
Well, the mixer costs 120 euros, and if you want the ingredients, all of them, it will cost 75 more euros, and they will last for 3 months.
So it's actually a very good price. Thank you so much for that, Dan. That brings us to the end of this week's edition of Tech 24. But you can watch it again on our website, France24.com. See you next time.